Good evening, Harpeth Valley families. Welcome to our first Microsoft Teams live event. We apologize if there are a few glitches. We are doing our best with our fabulous production crew here at Harpeth Valley. We are going to give just a second for our technology to catch up with us. All right, we will go ahead and begin. So right now we have on our screen the agenda for what we will be discussing tonight. And this is going to be an overview of our back to school procedures for our students that are returning to in-person learning. So we will begin by discussing the logistics of welcoming students back. And I have to say, we are all so excited to see our Harpeth Valley Hound Dogs coming back to school. We'll also discuss some health and safety information, arrival and dismissal, and talk about some procedures here in the building. We'll also touch on what related arts and recess will look like. And we recognize that we are not going to be able to answer everyone's questions tonight during this session, but we will be recording the questions that you are typing into the chat box or that you are stating as we are having our question and answer portion of this presentation. We will also be emailing a copy of this presentation to you later tonight, as well as additional information over the next week and a half so that we are all prepared and informed for our students to have a safe return to school. So our first day with our pre-kindergarten, kindergarten, first and second grade learners will be on October 13th, and October 13th and 14th will be half days. One change that was made to the district calendar this week is that Monday, October the 12th, is now a teacher planning day. So that is no longer an instructional day for students in person or virtually. So no students attend any kind of school on October the 12th. That is a day that our teachers will be here preparing for our learners to return. The following week, our third and fourth graders will be returning on October the 20th, and those days will be full days. So our third and fourth grade learners will begin on October 20th and have a full day for the remainder of that week. So at Harpeth Valley, over 30% of our learners have chosen to stay in the virtual setting. And Metro Nashville Public Schools has reached out to districts across the state and across the country to see what are best practices as students return to school. And one thing that they have found is that it is not advisable for a teacher to be teaching her students both live in person as well as virtually on the computer. So what we are doing at Harpeth Valley is we will have 2 teachers per grade level dedicated to virtual learning. Now, the unfortunate part of that is that because 2 teachers will be teaching virtually in each grade level and the remainder will be teaching in-person learners, we did have to make some adjustments to our class rosters. So starting tomorrow and continuing on Friday, you will be receiving an email from your child's teacher, and they will let you know what the next 9 weeks will look like, if they will continue working with that teacher or if they will be moved into a different teacher's homeroom. We tried as best we could to make as few changes as possible. However, changes were necessary for us to be set up in a space where we could successfully meet the needs of our virtual and our in-person learners. We appreciate you understanding those class changes, because we know that our teachers and our parents and our students have created very strong bonds with the teachers that they are with right now. And we have complete confidence that our teachers are going to continue to collaborate and that the first part of our next 9 weeks will be spent rebuilding classroom community, doing getting to know you activities, as well as diving into the learning for those 9 weeks. So within the building, we are making some changes. For example, and we'll speak about this later, for recess in the past, every child within a certain grade level has been at recess at the same time. And we want to minimize our students' exposure to large crowds within the building. So what we have done is we have paired our classes within the grade level. They are either in pairs of 2 or 3. And so those classes will travel to lunch at the same time. They'll travel to recess at the same time. And the reason for this is to dismiss their exposure to large groups of students. So for example, in 4th grade, Miss Mills and Miss Jarrett, when it's time for their classes to go to lunch, their classes will be in the cafeteria at the same time. When it's time to go outside for recess, Miss Jarrett and Miss Mills's class will be outside at the same time, and no other classes from that grade level will be out there. There will not be any after-school clubs offered here at Harpeth Valley, such as the chess club and Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and things like that. However, virtual clubs are being offered for free through Metro Nashville Public Schools. So if you're interested in that, please feel free to check the MNPS website to receive more information. We will not be having field trips this year, and there will also not be any school assemblies. It's very important for us to keep our children this year in smaller groups and to keep them contained and not moving throughout the building as much as they normally do. And so there will not be any school assemblies. So for our students that are returning in person, we have made some modifications to our standard school attire, and this has been posted on the PTO website, and we will be sending it out again soon as well. So for bottoms, bottoms can be black, navy, or khaki, and we are also allowing jeans this school year. However, no holes in the pants or shorts or skirts, and no sagging. No leggings can be worn as pants. Girls can wear those leggings underneath their skirts. And then for our shirts, we are allowing solid color t-shirts, solid color collared shirts, solid color turtlenecks, or button downs that are solid colors. Also, any day of the week, Hillwood Cluster t-shirts may be worn. So those can be Harpeth Valley shirts, Hillwood High School shirts, or Bellevue Middle School shirts. In the past, we've allowed for that on Fridays, but this year that can be any day of the week. With the weather getting a little bit colder, we are also going to talk a bit about hoodies. So a hoodie can be worn as a jacket coming into and out of the building, or going to recess or things of that nature. But while students are inside the building, they will not be able to keep those hoodies on their They will need to put those away. And part of our standard school attire this year is students wearing a mask. And so we'll talk a little bit later, Mr. Holt will, about students wearing masks. And if a student repeatedly refuses to wear a mask throughout the school day, then that is seen as a violation of wearing standard school attire and can lead up to some disciplinary measures. So that is all that we have at this time on logistics. I know that that was a very quick overview, so feel free to type your questions in the chat, and our amazing moderators, Mrs. Knapp, Mrs. Kelly, and Mrs. Lamb, are going to read some of those questions to me. And like I said earlier, we may not be able to get to all of the questions in this setting, but we will keep track of the questions and send those to you.
Dr. Gleason, we are having several questions about how many students will be in each classroom.
Sure, that is a great question. So we are still going to be going by the state guidelines by the state of Tennessee as to how many students can be in a classroom. And so fortunately, right now it looks like our numbers for in-person learning are a little bit lower than that. So there will be around 17 to 20 students in the classroom. And because of the size of our classrooms and across really metro schools in general, that is why the mask requirement is in place. The mask requirement is in place because we cannot guarantee that students are going to remain 6 feet apart at all times in our classrooms. So by wearing the masks at all times, that is an extra layer of protection, and it allows us to continue to set our classrooms up, in a way we are going to space kids out as far apart from each other as possible, but we will still have, some students sitting at small table groups of 3 or 4 students spread out on the ends of each table. Or if the classroom has desks, the desks will be spread apart. They won't be put together in groups, but we can't guarantee that there's 6 feet in between those desks. And so that's why we are going to require our students to wear masks.
Thank you. I see another question related to standard school attire. Actually, 2 questions. 1, are athletic shorts allowed? And 2, are distressed or frayed jeans okay with no skin showing?
If there is no skin showing, so it's not a hole, it's just distressed, then that would be allowed, but something that has a hole, that is not allowed. And then we are not allowing athletic shorts and pants at this time.
Okay, we have another question about the percentage of students staying virtual and the percentage coming back to school.
Sure. So that percentage, it varies a little bit from grade level to grade level, but overall it's around 35% of our learners that have chosen to remain virtual. And families will have a choice again in December if you have chosen in person and decide to go back to virtual learning, or if you are in virtual learning and want to return in person in January, that option will be available at that time. But we have communicated this afternoon, actually right before this meeting, we sent our teachers their revised roster so that they could begin contacting parents tomorrow and letting them know both what they are doing as a teacher, if they are going to be in person or virtual, and also if they will remain with the same teacher. No, we did not make any unnecessary changes. If Miss Knapp was remaining virtual and a child was in Miss Knapp's room, that child is still going to have Miss Knapp. But if Miss Knapp was going virtual and the child was returning to in-person learning, then we did have to make a change of teacher assignment.
That concludes the Q&A for this section. There are additional questions in the chat. We will be responding either later in the presentation or with more information in the next week or so.
Perfect, thank you. And now Mr. Holt is going to share some information with us about our health and safety.
Thank you, Dr. Gleason. Hello, Harpeth Valley families. It is Andrew Holt, your assistant principal. We're going to talk about some health and safety procedures and guidelines that we have established for when students return to the building. Like Dr. Gleason said, we are so excited to have students back in our building. Parents, will you please check student temperatures before leaving for school, and keep your child at home if they have a fever of 100.4 or greater and/or are displaying symptoms of COVID-19. Student temperatures will only be taken at school if children show signs of illness, but all staff will check their temperatures upon arrival to work each day and document that. Students will have scheduled times to wash or sanitize their hands multiple times throughout the day. We are strongly encouraging and even put it into our schedules for students to do this before and after lunch, before and after related arts, before and after recess, and during restroom breaks. Students who are displaying more than one COVID-19 symptom will be cared for in a separate room away from all the other students, faculty, and staff until a parent or guardian can come pick them up. So here are some of our cleaning protocols. We are going to strongly encourage hand washing. We have multiple hand sanitizer stations set up throughout the building. Disinfecting wipes are provided to all classrooms. EPA registered disinfectants for COVID are going to be used by our custodial staff. Regular and consistent wiping off touch points and daily wiping of horizontal surfaces. So our custodial staff will be going around throughout the day. They'll be wiping down horizontal surfaces and touch points such as doorknobs and doors and sinks and faucets, and they'll be doing that throughout the day. Water fountains will not be accessible when students return, so students may bring a water bottle with only water in it from home. So let me say that again, our water fountains will be turned off and students will not be able to use them. So students can bring a water from home if they would like. So in the case of somebody having a positive case of COVID-19, if a student or staff member tests positive for COVID-19, they'll be required to self-isolate for 10 days. If a student or staff member is determined to be in close contact with a confirmed COVID-19 case, that person will be required to quarantine for 14 days. In-person and virtual learning will be based on the Florida virtual school curriculum to allow uninterrupted learning if classes or schools must be closed for quarantine. As schools become aware of positive cases or the need to quarantine, families will be informed. However, we will not be able to share the names of the individuals who are positive due to student and health privacy laws. Masks. Children and staff are required to wear masks over their nose and mouth throughout the entire day. If a child is unable to wear a mask due to a medical condition, we have proper documentation that you must submit and meet the criteria set out by Metro Schools Central Office. Students can bring a mask from home, or they will be provided one with one at school. So those are some of our health and safety protocols and guidelines. So now we'll take some questions and answers about health and safety.
And this is Dr. Gleason with just a clarification or two. As we were reviewing those with you just now, I wanted to share how important our school nurse is going to be in our process as we return to school. So she is going to be our primary contact, and she will be in close contact with the Metro Central Office as well as the Metro Health Department. So one of her responsibilities will be if a staff member or a student has a confirmed case of COVID-19, one of her main responsibilities is going to be to go back and to contact trace any child or adult that positive case has been around. And because of that, we will have student assigned seating in the cafeteria. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. In our classrooms, students will have assigned seating, and so that is going to make it, should a case develop, it will make it a lot easier for us to recognize who that child has been in contact with and how long during the school day that child has been in contact with them.
We do have several questions for this section. Is there any rule on masks in terms of logos and patterns?
So I would say that we are going to follow the same SSA guidelines. We would, prefer masks that are solid in color and abide by those guidelines. If you have a school-related logo, like Metro Schools or any of the Hillwood cluster schools, then I think that would be okay.
And honestly, and I know that, you guys may have already bought a lot of masks for your family. So if you have already purchased masks, as long as if it does have some type of a logo on there, as long as it's not inappropriate language or an inappropriate slogan saying, essentially something that a child would be sent home if they wore to school, if it was on a t-shirt, then definitely, don't send your child to school in a mask like that. But if it is something like hearts or butterflies or unicorns or footballs or something of that nature, that will be just fine. If a child comes in a mask that our school staff does not believe is appropriate because of language or inappropriate language on the mask or an inappropriate picture, then we will give the child one of the masks that we have here at school, one of the disposable masks, and they will wear that one for the day.
Okay. Our next question is, if a child contracts COVID, will they be allowed to attend virtually while in quarantine?
Right now, based on our understanding, yes, they will be. And what we will be working out in the next week or so is a plan for what that will look like. If it is a child that is individually has COVID and contracted it outside of school, and so we're not needing to quarantine a small group of children from that class, most likely what will happen is that child will have access to learning via the virtual teachers that are teaching, on that grade level. And then when it comes to time submitting assignments, they will submit their assignments on their teacher Schoology page. So Schoology is not something that is going to only remain for our virtual learners. It is going to remain in place for our in-person learners as well. So in the case of a child being quarantined and needing to stay at home for that time period, they would still be able to submit assignments to their teacher via Schoology. Now, if a child has COVID-19 and they do have symptoms, sometimes we understand that a child can be asymptomatic and feel fine, but sometimes, they will have those symptoms and will not feel like doing the classwork. And so in that case, we would work, with the teacher and, on what a reasonable amount of work or joining virtually would look like. And then you would provide an excuse note, just like you would for any other illness, stating why the child was absent from school.
Thank you. We have one question related to water bottles. Will there be a station where children can refill their water bottle throughout the day?
So we do have 3 stations throughout the school. They're actually located close to where our water fountains are located, and they will be able to refill their water bottles there.
Great. And we have one question that reads, does the school or teachers need personal protective equipment, as in mask or other items, in terms of donations from parents?
Thank you guys so much for asking that question. The district and the state have provided us with a lot of great PPE, masks, hand sanitizer, wipes, sprays, cleaners, things of that nature. You may, when your child returns to school, after the first week or two, just touch base with your child's teacher and ask if they have anything that they particularly may need. Because a lot of our teachers, and you guys know this, on our supply lists in the past, we have put things like hand sanitizer and Clorox wipes. So we're very fortunate that you guys have provided that for us in the past. And so we have a little bit, of that remaining in our classrooms, but I would just encourage you, if you wanted to reach out to your child's teacher and ask them.
Thank you. That concludes the Q&A for this section.
All right, so we are going to move on to arrival and dismissal. And one thing that we are including in an email later tonight that will go out to all of our families, we've also recorded a PowerPoint very specific to car rider dismissal and arrival, because we recognize that we have some parents on here who have had children at Harpeth Valley for a while, and we realize that some of our parents are new and have not been able to see what that procedure looks like. So that will be coming in an email later this evening as well. So we will start out with arrival. So due to staffing and social distancing, the building will open at 7:35 for student drop-off. So the school day technically drop-off begins at 7:45, but because we have so many car riders, we have several staff members that have volunteered to come, and they've done so in the past as well, and supervise our students from 7:35 until they can go to their classrooms at 7:45, and that has helped to alleviate some of that congestion during the car rider arrival. So between 7:35 and 7:45, if your child arrives at that time, then when they exit the car at the appropriate time, they will walk to the cafeteria where a Harpeth Valley staff member will greet them, and they will remain in the cafeteria until 7:45. In the past, we had waited on the front porch or in the school lobby, but because those areas are more contained, we wanted to have our kids in an area where they could spread out and where there was plenty of space. So at car rider arrival, regardless of what time you arrive, no student can exit their car until you hear our staff member blow the whistle. That is the signal that it is safe for the child to exit their car. And there will be staff members posted along the sidewalk of the school to direct your child and to help them to get to where they need to go. So all students need to have their mask on before exiting the vehicle. So as you are, pulling into the school car rider circle, or as you are waiting for your child to unload, make sure they already have that mask on so that when the whistle blows, they can exit the car and come into the school building. And so all car riders in the morning and in the afternoon must go through the car rider line. So we recognize that there is a parking lot next door at the academy. There's a very small staff parking lot at the front of Harpeth Valley, and that there is parking across the street. But none of those folks are considered car riders. If you're a car rider, you need to come through the circle, and we discourage you from parking across the street or in the parking lot or in the academy parking lot. We discourage you from doing that both for car rider arrival and dismissal, because this car rider procedure is one that we have used for years and years, and it has kept our students safe. And so that is what we are going to stick with. So car riders, it says, like I said, you have to go through the car rider line, and parents will not be allowed to exit their cars. So when you're dropping your child off, you will not be able to get out of the car and help your child. We will have staff members that will be able to help get them out if they're having a rough morning. So you will just remain in your car at all times. Another change this year for arrival for our walkers, parents are not permitted to enter the school building to walk their child to class. And so in the past, we have allowed that for parents to walk their child to class, but this year parents are not allowed to be inside the school building for health and safety reasons. And so right now, all of our kindergarten and first and second grade teachers are thinking of ways that within that first week of school, when we come back, of some easy ways that they can connect with their students, and we can get their students from the car into the school building, because we recognize our kindergartners, many of them have not been to Harpeth Valley before. So we will have staff posted all throughout the sidewalks, all throughout the building to help guide your child and get them to where they need to be. If you arrive after 8 o'clock and you are a car rider or a walker, there will be a sign that is turned around in the driveway that will say that you are late to school and you need to come and sign your child in. So at that point, what we are asking you to do is parents to, stop your car and put your mask on and walk your child up to the front porch. And one of our Harpeth Valley staff members will meet you on the porch, and you will do that tardy signing in on the front porch of the school. But it is not okay to see that sign and send your kid out of the car and just let them come inside. We need every child that arrives after 8 o'clock to be signed in by an adult or a parent or guardian. So moving on to dismissal. So as in the past, there will be no early dismissals past 2:30, and that is so that we can prepare inside the building for a safe and efficient and effective dismissal. So if you do need to get your child out of school early for a doctor's appointment or a dentist appointment or something like that, What the process is going to look like is you will park your car and walk up to the front door. You will ring the doorbell, and our office staff will ask for your name and who you are here to pick up. And then they will call down to the classroom, and the child will come up to the lobby. And what will happen is the school staff member will meet the child. They will come out to the front porch. They will check your ID to make sure you are who you say you are, and that you are picking up the correct child. And then you will sign your child out for early dismissal at that point. So as far as our car rider dismissal, dismissal will be a lengthy process, and it does get better over time. It gets easier over time. It does speed up. However, it is a lengthy process, and our student safety is our utmost priority. So we understand sometimes you may be in a hurry and it's inconvenient for you to have to wait, but we want for all of our Harpeth Valley Hound Dogs to stay safe. So at the end of the school day, all of our car riders that are kindergarten, first or second grade, they will go and wait in the cafeteria. And then our third and fourth graders will come to the front hallway of the school and to the lobby, and they will be supervised by school staff, and they will be waiting to hear their car rider number being called. And when the boys and girls hear their car rider number, they will stand up and line up and wait for a staff member to direct them outside to walk to their car, and there will be Harpeth Valley staff members outside as well. Now, for all of you kindergarten parents and families that are new to Harpeth Valley, we recognize that you do not have your car rider numbers yet. We are working on that, and so if within the first couple of days of school, you've not heard from your child's teacher as to what your child's car rider number is, then just take a large piece of paper, write down your child's name, write down your child's teacher's name, and display that in the front of your car. And so when the staff member comes by to look for your car rider number, if they see you don't have a number, they will see the child's name and the child's teacher. And then that will communicate to us who we need to get ready to walk out to their car. So as I said, the process will start slowly, but it will get better with time. Parents, we ask for you to not exit your cars during dismissal. And we also ask that you not park across the street or at the academy or in the school parking lot. In the past, every now and then we will have a parent that does that. And what happens is we keep their child until the very end of the car rider line. And then at that time, we, ask the parent to go to get to their car wherever they parked it and come through the line. So you're not able to get out of there any sooner if you choose not to follow our procedures on that. So moving on to buses, we have quite a few buses at Harpeth Valley. We have 8 school buses, and they've been serving our community so well in the past couple of months, bringing lunches and breakfast to our kids. And so I know they're so excited when they see our Harpeth Valley students. So for bus transportation, students must wear their mask while they are on the bus unless they have that medical exemption form that has been approved by school administration and also by the child's doctor. And we are encouraging on the bus for students to sit with siblings if they have a brother or a sister that they sit together. Students may very well be assigned a seat on the bus to help with contact tracing. That is something that bus drivers will be communicating to parents. You should be hearing more information about that in the coming weeks. And so when the students arrive to school that have ridden the bus, they will enter the building through the doorway that is closest to the kindergarten classrooms. So in the past, we have had all of our Harpeth Valley kiddos coming in through that front lobby, coming in through the front doors, and it's a lot of kids. And so in order to try to spread that space out, we are going to have our bus riders to enter through that side door, so that will help with any kind of congestion in the hallways. So that is one of the changes that we've made. Now moving on to walkers. So a walker is defined by Harpeth Valley staff and by Metro Nashville Public Schools. A walker is a child that lives too close to the school to receive school bus transportation. And so that number is 1¼ miles. So if you live within 1¼ miles of the school, then you're not eligible for bus transportation and you can be considered a walker. Now, a walker, even with those guidelines, a walker is not someone whose parent drives them up and parks down the street and lets them walk in, because that creates an unsafe situation on the streets and around our school. So we do ask parents that, you know, if your child, if you were considering your child being a walker, that you make sure that they meet these requirements. So walkers will enter the building through the front lobby. And again, parents are not able to walk their child to their classroom. If the parent has walked the child to school, they will need to stop, you know, short right at the porch of the school and then let their child go from there. If your child is being dismissed as a walker, our walkers will use the exit that they have used in previous years as well, and that is the exit that is closest to Collinswood Drive. If you walk on the sidewalk that takes you from Collinswood Drive around to the side of the school, and eventually you would get to the playground and the garden, that is the door right there where our 3rd grade teachers' classrooms are that we will be exiting from. And so while you are waiting for your child, you will need to be wearing a mask. And if you have any younger siblings with you, your child's siblings, they will need to have a mask on at that time as well. And prepare to wait in a line on the sidewalk, standing socially distanced from other families. And then when the students arrive, you know, to that doorway, they will wait there. The teachers will come out and they will ask you for your child's car rider number. And you may think, well, they're a walker. Why am I giving them a car rider number? But we just need a check to make sure that we are dismissing the child to the right parent or guardian. So the school staff member will ask you, what is your child's car rider number? You will tell them, they will radio into inside the building, and then your child will exit at that time. Are there any questions? I know that was a lot of information. We will be sending more to you guys in writing that outlines all of those specific procedures as well. But at this time, are there any questions?
Our first question for this section is, what are the hours of the school day?
Sure, that's a great question. So the students will be able to go to their classroom at 7:45. Like I mentioned, we begin receiving car riders at 7:35, but they will walk to their classroom at 7:45. The technical hours of the school day are 8 o'clock till 3 p.m. So, and then our dismissal, we start our dismissal just a few minutes before 3 o'clock. We move around in the building and get our kids to their dismissal locations. And then dismissal lasts until around 3:15. Now, honestly, these first couple of weeks with car riders, it's very likely that it's going to be 3:30, 3:45, you know, because we have traditionally, we've had a lot of kids that are car riders. And we're not sure, you know, with what parents' decisions will be for this year about their child riding a bus versus, you know, coming and going from school in a car. So, so just anticipate that it will take a while. But a school day, that's a great question. Technically, if a child's, it's 8 o'clock, anything after 8 o'clock is tardy, and then dismissals at 3 o'clock. So for your child to be considered present for a whole day, I know you didn't ask this, but it's kind of related. So a child needs to be present for 3.5 hours. So if a child comes to school, is here at 8 and stays at least until 11:30, and then you have to pick them up for a dentist appointment, then that's considered an early dismissal, but they're not counted absent for the whole day. If your child comes to school at 8 o'clock, you come and get them for a 9 o'clock appointment and sign them out and they don't come back, then that is considered an absence because they've not been present for 3.5 hours.
Our next question is about kindergartners, and how will they know their way around the building? How will they know where to go when they're dropped off? And can an older sibling walk a kindergartner to his or her classroom?
Great questions. So we are going to have school staff members that are out, especially those first few days, out in the front area where the kids will be getting out of their cars, and they will be, helping to direct students. We are going to ask, especially for our younger students, parents, if you have a way to make a name tag for your child, or a label or a piece of masking tape or painter's tape or something like that, and you put your child's name, their teacher's name, and how they're going to go home that afternoon, then that will definitely help our school staff to easily, lay eyes on a kid and know exactly where they need to go. Mr. Holt, our assistant principal, is working with one of our Harpeth Valley parents to also create a video that we will send to our families before the beginning of the first day of school. And what it does is it, by grade level, will kind of walk you through what the school building looks like. So it'll be, where you'll enter the building, and then where you will turn, to go to the kindergarten classrooms. So that is a resource that we will have for you guys as well. And we will have, all of the adults that are helping with that arrival. We'll have lists of students with their classroom teacher listed as well. So if your child forgets who their teacher is, that's okay. We will have a list, and we'll be able to match them up, and we will walk them to class. And at the question about the older sibling, if there's an older sibling, yes, absolutely, they can walk them to that teacher's classroom.
On that same effect, we had a question about dismissal. Will siblings be kept together in the dismissal areas, or will, say, for example, a kindergartner be in a separate section of the school than the second grade sibling?
That's a great question. So if the siblings are in kindergarten, first and second grade, they will all be in the same space in the cafeteria. If they are third and fourth grade, they will be in the lobby of the school and in that front hallway. And so, for example, if you had a first grader and a fourth grader, they would not be sitting together at their dismissal location. However, when it was time for them to go out to their vehicle, they would, exit two separate doors, but then would be able to meet up and go to their vehicle together.
This will be our last question for this section. We have many families wondering about the details of Fun Company. Will you please share information about Fun Company before and after care?
Sure. So we have had a very successful relationship with Fun Company. They've been at Harpeth Valley for a good number of years, and they are planning to be back here beginning the week that students return to school. The Fun Company director is coming in during the week of fall break and getting things set up. They will only be using 2 locations within the school building. They will be using the gym, and they will be using the cafeteria. And from Miss Anita is our site director again, and from what she has communicated with me, they have very specific protocols as well. Some of those protocols are similar to the ones that we are using at Harpeth Valley, and some may be a little bit more restrictive. And so they should be in touch with you guys about Fun Company, about what their guidelines are very soon. They did say that they will have Fun Company is allowing parents to walk their child either to the side door, of the cafeteria to drop their child off, or to pick their child up. That would be, a similar procedure. So, and their guidance, they have, like I said, a different set of operating procedures. So theirs may be more restrictive in some ways, and it may be not as restrictive in other ways. So we just ask if there's any questions or confusion, if it's regarding Fun Company's procedures, to reach out to them. And if it's regarding a Harpeth Valley procedure, that you reach out to Mr. Holt or myself or your child's teacher. And all of the registration for Fun Company is online. It's not handled here through the school office. If you search on the internet, YMCA Middle Tennessee Fun Company, it will list the different sites, and then you'll be able to click and receive registration information. And then possibly if the roster is full, as it does often fill up, then there will be a waiting list as well.
That concludes the Q&A for that section.
All right, so let's talk about some classroom procedures, and then I'm also going to hit on breakfast and lunch procedures. So in the classroom, children and staff must wear a mask over their nose and mouths the entire time. Students can bring a mask from home, or they'll be provided one with one here at school. We'll try our best to socially distance our students in the classroom, but that is not always feasible. So the reason why we're asking for students to wear the mask all the time is because we would like to, or we are going to try our best to keep students socially distanced, but in a school building, that's not always feasible depending on where they are in the school building. So with students and staff wearing a mask at all times, that helps us out when students are transitioning and might be passing by another class, or they're in a classroom where it might be too small to socially distance, or even in the cafeteria at dismissal when we are passing the buses and the car riders on their way out. That's where the masks come in play. In the classroom, students will have assigned seats. Small group instruction will only be allowed on the carpet or at a table, and students will be appropriately spaced out when they line up for transitions. Now, so let's talk about some breakfast. Students who arrive prior to 7:45 will go to the cafeteria where a boxed breakfast will be available. Breakfast is free to all Harpeth Valley students. The cafeteria will be limited to half capacity, and seats will be marked to ensure students are socially distanced. Tables and chairs will be disinfected after each use. Students will need to wear a mask over their mouth and nose unless they are eating. Our lunch times have been staggered to be 5 minutes apart from each other to avoid student crowding. Students will have an assigned seat with only half of the seats at a table being used to ensure proper social distancing. Students may take off their masks to eat lunch, but will be required to put it back on when they finish eating. Boxed lunches will be brought to students, and the buffet lines will not be used. Tables and chairs will be disinfected after each use. There will be no lunch visitors allowed at this time. Also, shareable and outside food will not be allowed. For an example, birthday cupcakes and cookies. And have your please practice with your child at home opening lunch containers, Ziploc bags, Lunchables, or drinks like that. Okay, so for lunch and breakfast, what's great is that they're going to have free breakfast and lunch through December, which is fantastic. That's for all of our students. Our breakfast and lunches are going to be boxed up by our cafeteria staff so that students are not touching utensils and stuff to get the food. They'll already be boxed up and they'll be distributed to the students in their seats. At breakfast, there will be white milk provided, and then at lunch, chocolate milk will be provided, but also they can get a cup of water if they would prefer to do that. And for lunch, there's only going to be, since the cafeteria staff is boxing it for the students, there's only going to be one hot lunch option available that day. So now we'll take some more questions.
Mr. Holt, may we have clarification on the latest time students can get breakfast in the morning?
Sure. So students can stop by and get breakfast at any point up until, I believe, 8 a.m. And they can pick up a lunch and take that, or excuse me, a breakfast and take that to their classroom.
Great. And
I was going to say, and in the event that it is a late bus, if your child is riding the bus and the bus is delayed for some reason, we will keep breakfast available for those bus riders until the bus arrives.
That was going to be my next question. All right, we have a lot of questions around that late bus and breakfast times. Our next question is, will kids be allowed to bring their own lunch?
Yes, absolutely. Students can bring their own lunch from home, and The main thing that we want to press is that that the students are not bringing anything shareable, or they're not sharing or trading food during breakfast or lunch.
Great. Our last question for this section is going to be about lunch costs. Will you please reiterate the cost of lunch?
Sure. So great news. Breakfast and lunch is free for all Harpeth Valley students until the end of December. So yeah, great.
Thank you. That concludes the Q&A for that section.
All right, so we are going to close with just a couple of more slides to give you an idea about what our related arts and what our recess will look like. So for related arts, to minimize the transitions in the hallways, our art teachers are going to go into your child's homeroom class to teach art. Your student will still transition in the hallways if they have PE class or if they have music class. So music will be in each music teacher's classroom and the PE class will be in the gym, but art will be in the child's homeroom. And another reason for that for art is so that the children can use their own supplies. You know, for many years, teachers have, used community supplies and things like that, and the days of that are gone. So every child will have their own pencil box or pencil bag. And so during their time when they are here at school, whether they're doing something in their own classroom or whether it is their art class that's in their own classroom, they will have that their own pencil box and own supplies. So that will keep from spreading those germs. So students will be required to clean or sanitize their hands before and after their related arts class. And then for music and PE, any type of equipment that is used or any type of instrument, like mallets or things like that, that will be sanitized after each use. And we spoke with Ms. Biederstadt and Ms. Partridge earlier this week, and they were telling us things like boys and girls learning how to play recorder because the transmission of germs is very high for that. That is not something we are going to be doing this year. So they are going to be very mindful in the activities that they in the musical activities that they do with our students to keep our germs to a minimum, and students will be required to wear their masks during these times. And in thinking about recess, students will still have recess. So on rainy days or on days where the temperature is below 32 degrees with that cold wind chill factor, classes will have indoor recess and students will be required to have their mask on during that time. However, on days where the weather is permitting, students will go out to the playground or to the front field to play. And that recess time is 20 minutes. And like we mentioned earlier, when we were talking about trying to keep students in smaller groups as opposed to whole grade level groups, only 2 classes or 3 classes within a grade level will be outside at one time. Students may take off their mask at recess if they are staying 6 feet apart from other students. But if they are participating in an activity where students are closer than that, then they will be required to wear their mask. And then students may use the playground equipment. We are not able to sanitize the playground equipment in between classes. However, students are going to be washing or sanitizing their hands both before and after recess. And one thing that we also wanted to mention was during these transition times when classes are going to and from lunch or to and from the restroom or things like that, we do have markers in the hallway. We have about 400 or 500 3-inch blue arrows that not only show the students which way to walk in the hallway so that that they're not crossing paths, but those arrows are also 6 feet apart. So it gives our boys and girls a very good visual of what 6 feet apart looks like. And in our classrooms, teachers will be doing that as well. They will have visual reminders of during transition times when boys and girls are lining up. What does 6 feet apart look like? And it's done so that everyone will be able to stay safe and as far apart as possible. So now for our questions and answers around related arts and recess.
We have so many questions about related arts and supplies. So when do parents need to send supplies? And also, will supplies be needed for related arts classes?
Those are great questions. So I know that all of our grade level teams, our teaching teams are working on a revised school supply list for our families, and they will also be communicating with you all what that will look like if they're going to have some type of drop-off time where you drop off bags of supplies and then they take them into the classroom for the student. I know our kindergarten teachers are talking about doing something of that nature. So be looking for more communication about that. And for related arts, we do have money through our PTO and also through our school budget to purchase the materials that they need. That's in addition to the supplies that, you know, the child will have in their own crayon box. They will, you know, need some additional construction paper and sketch paper and things like that. But we're fortunate to have some school funds and also some PTO funds to take care of that.
All right, our next question is, do we need to get a lanyard to hold their mask while they're not in use? For example, when students are eating or when they're at recess?
That is a great question. I know that our PTO is looking into some different options for lanyards for us to have those available for students. What I am not sure of is just with, you know, so many folks wanting those lanyards and the mass quantity that we would need to order, I'm not sure that they're going to be available in time for the first day of school. So if you want to purchase a lanyard, you know, from anywhere, Amazon, you know, wherever you choose, and have that attached to your child's mask, that is absolutely okay. That's great.
All right, our last question for this section is going to be, will students be able to go to the library and use it as a resource?
Yes, the students will be able to go to the library. We are working with library services to see what those logistics will look like. And so we are also considering in some grade levels building in library time into our related arts schedule. So we are looking at doing that for a couple of grade levels as well. So, you know, I know that Limitless Libraries materials from their students will be able to continue to order, and Mrs. Tapscott and Miss Maria will deliver those resources to classrooms on a daily basis. And then when those are returned, they will be quarantined for a certain amount of time, a certain number of hours before they return them to the Metro Public Library. I have heard conversation, just very preliminary conversation of, you know, instead of, you know, having just open checkout where any kids can come at any time, like we've had in the past, of that being a little bit more scheduled, and so that teachers could bring, you know, or send small groups of students, possibly by table, as they're already sitting in the classroom. So we definitely are going to continue to use our library, you know, this year, and there will be, you know, some additional guidelines and things like that. And we're learning, I mean, guys, we are learning things by the hour. We are receiving more information by the hour. And so, so we will keep you updated on that and on other developments as well.
That concludes our Q&A for this section. Again, we have additional questions in the chat we know that we have not yet answered, but we will be responding to those with more information in the next week or so.
And so just in closing, I just wanted the opportunity to tell you all that, you know, we love your child. Some of your children we've not even met yet, but we love them, and we are so excited to have them back in the building with us, and to also have our learners continue to learn virtually. And so we know school is going to look different this year. But one thing that is not different from any other year is that we are committed. We are committed as a faculty and staff. We are dedicated to your children, and we are so enthusiastic, about being able to be a part of your child's education. We know that you guys have choices about where you can choose to send your child to school, and it is something that we take so seriously, that you are trusting us with the most precious little people that are in your life, and it is our goal to do anything and everything we can to meet their needs. So even though there are going to be changes, even though things are not going to look the same this year, we are committed, we are dedicated, and we are so enthusiastic. We can't wait to see our kiddos again. And kind of aligning with our mission of Harpeth Valley Elementary, we want our kids to be in a safe learning environment, and that is even more so this year. We are a PBIS school, which means that part of that is teaching our boys and girls the expectations of what it means to behave in different areas of the school and what that looks like. And our team has gone through and revised all of those expectations so that we are clearly defining what it looks like for our boys and girls. What does it look like to be safe in the cafeteria, safe in the hallway, and adding the verbiage, to that talks about, wearing a mask, staying 6 feet apart, keeping hands to self, things of that nature. So safety absolutely is first. We also want your child to experience academic success and emotional well-being, regardless of if they are in person or virtually. We are committed to your child. And like I said earlier, we are receiving information constantly, and we are processing that and getting that information to our families and revising our plans so that we are doing anything and everything we can to keep our children and our staff safe, and so that we can return to the school building together. So I thank you so much for joining us tonight. I thank our assistant principal, Mr. Holt, and also our production team, Mrs. Knapp and Mrs. Lamb and Mrs. Kelly, for this is our first Microsoft Teams live event. So we appreciate their support in helping us to do this. And 2020, truly, the 2022 school year, 2020-2021 school year is truly a challenge, but our staff very early on agreed that, we are going to embrace this challenge. And parents, I believe that you have as well. And we cannot thank you enough for your commitment to your child and your commitment to your child's education. And so know that we are in this together with you. And we appreciate you and look forward to seeing our Harpeth Valley Hound Dogs very soon. Thank you for joining us.